politicians, when running for office, often make promises on what they're going to do, when they're going to do it, often, day one. Uh, the people of New York have elected a mayor who delivers on his promises, at least as far as we can judge so far from his inauguration speech to some of the decisions he's already made and put into practice, uh, to deleting some tweets from the official account. Zoran Mamdani is looking just as bad as we predicted, if not worse. Today, we're going to talk about some of that. Welcome to the reality show. I'm Razi Ginsburg, joined by Daniel Richards, Marco, and Richard. I just realized that's going to be a problem, but not as much as a problem when we have two Daniels on the show. Um, Daniel, I'm going to go to you first. You know, the some at least one line in his speech sounded almost like plagiarism from somewhere. I can't remember where, but it sounded familiar.
Yeah, a little bit like he should be sued for lifting some copy from Atlas Shrugged. I was told that Ayn Rand's villains were unrealistic, and I'm a little skeptical of that now. Zoran Mondame sounds like he was written by Ayn Rand, and that speech was taken straight out of the pages of Atlas Shrugged. Yes, well, I'm sure we'll get into some clips, but my goodness, did he deliver in that speech exactly what he promised? Which, gotta hand it to him, just like a wolf telling sheep that he plans to eat them, he's telling it like it is.
Marco.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't engineer something like that, could you? Even the villain, like the penguin in Batman, in the sewers swearing onto the Quran. It's like, okay, it wasn't a sewers, it was a dismissed a tube station, underground station, but nevertheless, you can't make these people up. As Daniel mentioned, I mean, this is straight from a book, but unfortunately, this is reality. This is exactly an evil guy telling you what his ideology is about. And unfortunately, lots of Americans, lots of New Yorkers cheering for this. And they're going to be the first one to suffer from it. But, the pain is going to be spread. And that's the essence of collectivism.
Yeah. I mean, I always thought that Gavin Newsom was the slime bucket that was straight out of an Atlas Shrugged novel, but this is an extra level, isn't it? This is an extra level of evil for sure. And I think we absolutely should believe what they say when they're campaigning, because these people do have principles and they are sticking to those principles. The point is, principles aren't always the right principles, and these are absolutely not the right principles. But you should certainly believe them when they say what they're going to do, because that is precisely what he is going to do. And when people go, oh yeah, but he won't really do it, he'll water it down, he'll do some other version of it. That's what they said in 1930s Germany, ahead of thinking they could manage Hitler when he came in. Now, I'm not going to say that Mamdani is Hitler, but I'm going to. The point is still that the key point is still the same: is that you can't pretend that people with the wrong principles can be managed out of them and managed into the kind of pragmatism that the other side, the right, the conservatives, are so fond of doing all the time as a means of diluting the left. Instead, they should be standing up for the right principles in the first place and sticking to those principles. And unfortunately, you're going to see the absolute opposite with Mamdani.
Yeah, I'm also not going to say that Mamdani is Hitler. He can't do what Hitler did within his current role. But I do think, if that is the direction we're going, Mamdani being sworn in is a milestone that we will remember in that journey. Remember, New York is the city with the largest Jewish population in the world, more than the next two cities, Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, combined. So, him being mayor there is significant in terms of what he wants to do when it comes to the Jewish population. We've heard some of it. Let's hear the first clip from his speech. We have a couple of those and a couple of other things to discuss from his 24 hours or so in office.
We will draw this city closer together. We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. If our
Should we pause here? I don't
demonstrate-
know how much more there is of this clip, Daniel, but yeah. Do you want
Like
to
15
tell?
seconds.
Then let's pause here. and go back to the next 15 seconds because that alone, I think, deserves its own, yeah, its own segment of discussion here. Um, Daniel, can you give us some historical examples of the warmth of collectivism?
Yeah, my goodness. I study rhetoric for a living, and he just did not think through this metaphor in the slightest. Or maybe he did, and that's even more frightening, but I will give him the benefit of the doubt because when I think of the warmth of collectivism, my goodness, Jews in Nazi Germany felt the warmth of collectivism. Uyghurs in communist China feel the warmth of collectivism. Homosexuals in theocratic Iran feel the warmth of collectivism. That warmth often comes from the pyre on which they sacrifice individuals. So this was uh, shockingly terrible, evil type of rhetoric that he is peddling right out the gates to large applause from the audience. It was one of those jaw-dropping moments when I saw this come across my iPhone. Just an incredible moment to be alive in America right now.
Yeah, Marco, he Mamdani definitely isn't easing us into, the Mamdani style, his regime, and what we should expect with that one line.
Well, obviously so. I mean, the guy told you from the beginning what he was about. He wasn't joking, as Richard pointed out. All the people who assume that he's going to be better once he's in position, they are fools. They are people who are actually enabling this kind of evil. It's the classic um, good that stands back and allows the evil to take over. Really, it's the same thing as that we've seen, as Richard pointed out, in the 30s. But it's the same thing that we see every time somebody doesn't stand up to a wrong. Every time somebody on the right side of the argument doesn't slap down the wrong side of the argument, enables the wrong side to actually take foot. And that's exactly what we're seeing. But even worse, this guy is declaring his philosophy, his ideology straight from the start. These people hate human beings. They do not believe that human beings should live for their own sake, but they should be enslaved, they should suffer, should be used by somebody in name of a collective. Doesn't matter if it's a religious collective, if it's a state, a race, or a party, whatever. They like to have slaves. They like humankind to be enslaved. They hate collectivism, individualism, because individualism, if you have a, a population of free individual, truly free individual, you cannot control them, and the power luster would fall apart. But that's also why these kind of characters always go hand in hand with some sort of mysticism, some religions that backs them up to provide them the morality that will justify their enslavement and their abuse of the majority of the population. We'll see that these kind of policies, like we take from the rich to give to the poor, but this is no Robin Hood. This is somebody who wants to exploit the producers, who want to exploit the people who make an effort and give it to the parasites who eventually will vote for him again and will keep him in power. It's a very well orchestrated and planned and a good strategy if you want to be the kind of evil that he is representing.
And I'm sure we'll have plenty of opportunity in the course of the next hour to make a couple of references to our own mayor here in London and the comparisons that exist for the future of New Yorkers on the basis of our experiences here in London in terms of having a leftist mayor for as long as we have, and that very same mix of leftism and the elements of Islam that hang Palestinian flags from lampposts across parts of the city of London, for example. But anyway, just to stick to before I get tempted into all that, which I'm easily done. I wanted to just focus on this quote which you've just done. I mean, the warmth of collectivism. To me, what strikes me of that is the warmth of your blood for their cause, and your blood spilt for their cause, because that's what unites ultimately what happens in all of these. And then if you look at the other half of the quote, the first half, when he talks about the frigidity of rugged individualism, with frigidity, with its connotations of coldness and impotence. These are the two things they always want to associate with the individual, that they're powerless unless they're a part of a group, when the absolute opposite is the case. They're only powerful in their own right based on their own effort, and they can choose voluntarily to cooperate with other people for the benefit of those individuals voluntarily. That's the truth of the matter. That's what really works. And of course, it is ultimately about personal happiness as well, which is also achievable. And all of the warmth from that side of things is only achievable if the individual is free. And then this is Ayn Rand's key argument, that the argument it shouldn't be based on an apologetic argument, but it should be what she calls an argument from self-esteem, that man's right to his own life and his inalienable right to the individual's own life. And that is what they want to make the absolute opposite. It's the policy here of any collectivist, and Mamdani clearly is one. And they will make the individual impotent by making the collective, the gang, the one that crushes the individual. And that's what they do every time. So yeah, all of that's what you're seeing in this speech, and it's kind of the warning's there, quite honestly. But the warning was there a long time ago, even with the slogans on the campaign trail. So you were told what you were voting for. You now got to live with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always shocking to me that with all the collectivist talk about loving humanity, right? They are the humanitarians, quote unquote. That's what they actually only ever fall in love with is an abstraction large enough to crush real people.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Horrifying.
And Richard, is threatening to bring up comparisons to Sadiq Khan, which I know will land me in the same category as whenever I criticize the previous conservative government, I'm being accused of being a Tony Blair fan. Sadiq is terrible. I despise him. Would never vote for him, but I don't think he is anywhere near as bad. But we'll get to it when we get to it. Thank you, Equal to Reality, for being a member of the YouTube channel for 44 months. Equal to Reality says, why do I feel Mamdani is going to be the new Trump? So again, I don't think viewers of this channel will accuse me of being a Trump supporter by any stretch of the imagination. But no, one of the reasons that no is Trump is unprincipled. And, you never know what you're going to get. And sometimes it's bad, and sometimes it's really bad, and sometimes it's accidentally good. With Mamdani, you know what you're going to get because he's saying it very clearly, and he's already doing it in his um, first day in office. So, but there is also this issue of being a socialist and an Islamist and trying to combine the two. And I wonder how that's going to work out. Historically, it doesn't really work out well for socialists. You can ask the communists who fought against the Shah in Iran in order to topple him and did. And then it didn't really turn out the way they had hoped. Somebody in the chat, or one of our newest trolls, who I think found us when we spoke about Turkey, the Turkish troll says somewhere here, where was this? Oh yeah, Zora Mamdani, love from Istanbul. And earlier on, the same troll said, Tel Aviv full of homosexual. So yeah, Mamdani's base includes, a bunch of people who really, one side of them might think they get along with the other really wants to kill that one side. How that's going to work out, we can only imagine, but let's hear the rest of the other 15 seconds of that clip.
Campaign demonstrated that the people of New York yearn for solidarity, then let this government foster it. Because no matter what you eat, how you pray, or where you come from, the words that most define us are the two we all share: New Yorkers.
Yeah, again, the solidarity part there is to me the scary part. What exactly do you mean? And I think he told us what he means at the beginning of that clip. Daniel.
Yeah. Razi, I agree that Trump and Mamdani are not the same, certainly on that ideological point. There was a little bit of that Trump inflection there, though. Actually heard in that talk when he was talking about doesn't matter what you eat. Like there was a little bit of Trump in that.
Well, they met and they got along so well in that meeting that yeah, maybe it rubbed off on him.
Yeah, there is actually I was noting that there is actually one element in which I do think they have some similarity, which is that they judge the legitimacy of law and policy based on who it serves and not on if it actually is a good law, bad law, based on the rule of law or whatever. It's about a constituency. We see this throughout his entire speech about who does New York really belong to, right? I think it belongs to the people it belongs to. Lots of talk about rights, no talk about property rights. In fact, that will be the first thing to go. And yes, that solidarity of New Yorkers, it doesn't matter what you eat or how you pray, but apparently does matter if you own something or not, or how much money you make or not. Those things don't create solidarity. Those things create outgroups that he can take advantage of. It will be interesting to see. And he's already started to sign some executive orders and do some things. There's some talk that he mentioned wanting to go in and use the full power of government to fight landlords that aren't taking care of their businesses, or sorry, their buildings, right? There's some talk that what he means there is eminent domain, essentially the government taking over the building and running it. So we will see. Interesting.
Yeah. Marco.
Yeah, I mean, referring to a troll and the gays in Tel Aviv. Well, last time I checked, New York City is full of gays as well, isn't it? And Mandami's cabinet itself, if I'm a judge of character, is full of lesbians as well. I'd love to see how it's gonna go down with his Hamas fan base when Mandami attends the gay pride in New York. I'd like to see how he's gonna be able to get around the one. But of course, our leader Sadiq Khan does exactly the same, and he gets away with it. So probably Mamdani, despite his rhetoric, will be able to be hailed as the hero of the gays of New York, despite being on the side of the people who throws gays off building. But never mind, that's collectivism, isn't it? Again, the essence of collectivism is to pitch a group of people against the other. So you create a group of people that eat in a certain way, a group of people that pray in a certain way, a group of people who haven't got much money, mainly for their own fault, a group of people who make money because they choose to go out there and make money, a group of people. I mean, this is how these kind of individuals hold on to power, by pitching a group against the next. So they effectively keep everybody under control because they create a sort of civil warfare among the groups that vie for the favor that is going to bestow upon his favorite groups. And I mean, the the pairing of Islamism and Islamic culture and the far left is a one-to-one match because they both want to see every single human enslaved. Of course, Islamic's under the rule of Allah, and whichever priest is going to be in charge, and the left is under the presumed will of the people, which again will be determined by a group of elite. And again, they want to be the elite that rules the world because they hate human beings. They hate the fact that we should be free to do our own thing and live our life the way we want it. They hate that. They hate that because they haven't got any self-esteem and they haven't got any way of getting any self-esteem because they're unable to produce any value at all. So they can only parasitize somebody else. They can only exercise power over somebody because they haven't got any other power over their choices. Otherwise, they are they're just fools. They're just really parasites.
And of course, within that quote you just gave, the solidarity line is the word solidarity itself is itself a clarion call for those trying to round up slaves. It always is, and yet it seems to have this warm glow for those on that side of the spectrum who think they won't be victims of it, and yet they will be victims of it, even as they call for their own destruction. I think you look at how he framed that particular section of his speech, talking about where people eat or what people eat or where they pray. One of the ways in which people defend immigration, and there are obviously good arguments for immigration, but one of the ways they frame it wrongly is to associate immigration with different types of cuisine. And try and trick you into, oh, you like to eat lots of different types of cuisine, don't you? Therefore, you like to have lots of different types of ideals, don't you? Ideals that actually want you dead, some of them. No, clearly not. So to try and switch, to try and sort of trick you into thinking that immigration just means a different choice of food options on your local high street is to misunderstand some of the impact of that immigration when the ideals are anti the country that they're in. And of course, it depends on who you're talking about, depends on what you're talking about, to the extent to which that's true. But of course, here, what he's talking about is pitting one group against another. So favouring one group of immigrants against another, which will ultimately be exactly what has occurred in London repeatedly. And of course, always bringing religion into it. There's always an afterthought, and I can't remember if it was in this clip or in one of the other clips. There's always an afterthought for those handful of people, those few people who don't have a religion, those poor unfortunate beings who are unreligionless and don't belong to any sect group. They always get a mention, but of course those are actually the majority. Certainly in London, and I would imagine in New York, of those who are the successful, those who are making the money, because they're those who are oriented more to reality and less to some fantasy world, at least to the extent in their practical real lives. They are directing their energies towards, this world, not some other world, and therefore, less time spent on their knees praying is going to be what makes them successful, not more time on their knees wishing for some form of success from above.
Yeah, Razi, it also strikes me that although he gives lip service to differences, like Mark and Richard were noting, cuisine and where we pray, the solidarity point is the rejection of that, actually. Solidarity is sort of the rejection of pluralism and the idea that there's a lot of us that sort of have differing opinions that need to sort of live together. No, no, no. This isn't the e pluribus unum of the founding era. This is e pluribus consensus or e pluribus obedience, right? This is solidarity now. We are going forward with one vision, one voice. I think he used the phrase "a shared we," right? Like this is the rejection of those founding principles that people of diverse viewpoints, backgrounds, cultures can live together in harmony. This is one.
Yeah, and again, like if you look at some of his views of the past that he might, the extent to which he will try to implement them is remains to be seen. He was a defund the police guy, for a while, and even now he has some sort of, I forget what it's called, but community security something, which sounds like kind of a police force without the limits that exist when you have a police force, which is terrifying considering his overall views. I've wondered in the past how he's going to arrest Netanyahu if he defunds the police, but maybe he'll find some middle ground there. But yeah, what is this security? We know what these security forces won't do, because one of the things he complained about in his campaign is the what little law enforcement there was during the riots, the pro-Hamas riots in the spring of 2024. He thinks they did too much to stop them, and of course they did very little, which is why it was allowed to continue. We saw what happened in other universities where law enforcement, the law was actually enforced. In Emory University was the one of the famous clips that we often play on this show. In New York, it just kept going until at some point they did a little bit, and this is what he wants to stop. So again, when we say it's open season on New York's Jews, this is what it means. It means that the under the guise of free Palestine, which of course we know exactly what that means, people will be allowed to do the kinds of things that these people want to do and that they're advocating for. Another clip.
The authors of this story will speak Pashto and Mandarin, Yiddish and Creole. They will pray in mosques, at shul, at church, at gurudwaras and mandirs and temples. And many will not pray at all. They will be Russian Jewish immigrants in Brighton Beach, Italians in Rossville, and Irish families in Woodhaven, many of whom came here with nothing but a dream of a better life, a dream which has withered away. They will be young people in cramped Marble Hill apartments where the walls shake when the subway passes. They will be black homeowners in St. Albans, whose homes represent a physical testament to triumph over decades of lesser paid labor and redlining. They will be Palestinian New Yorkers in Bay Ridge, who will no longer have to contend with a politics that speaks of universalism and then makes them the exception. Few of these 8.5 million will fit into neat and easy boxes.
Okay, it says something that Palestinians are the ones who got cheers. I don't think we need to show videos here to remind people, but October 7th was the day where Palestinianism was shown at its fullest. Thousands of terrorists with GoPro cameras because they knew that their people would be inspired by the sight of mass murder of civilians. Went in, did what they did. Thousands more when they heard that there was an opportunity to do this, that the fence had come down in different places, joined them. Tens of thousands took to the streets to celebrate, and for years, for 2 years, nobody in Gaza stood up and said, "This is evil. We need to fight against this thing that's being done in our name." This is what Zoran Mamdani wants to bring to New York, again, the city with the world's largest Jewish population. Daniel.
Yeah, what a cheer there, so distinct from that particular audience. This is again that sort of guise that using the sort of rhetoric of pluralism while rejecting it entirely. It's pointing out all these different interest groups, but aiming them toward one particular ideology. And it's an ideology that is incredibly dangerous to individuals, incredibly dangerous to Jews, incredibly dangerous to anyone who wants to live a free life, devoid of coercion. It's something I don't know. I said yesterday's show that I was optimistic, and I still think I'm optimistic in the sense that I expected him to be bad. I didn't expect him to be this pointed about how bad he's going to be. And maybe I just didn't follow him closely enough. I thought so, but I do think that him laying out these sort of explicit principles is going to make it easier for people to see than it usually is. It's usually much more hidden than this. So in that sense, I remain optimistic while being floored and frightened for those in the short term.
Yeah, Marco, back to the comparison to Hitler and the fact that he can't he can't have concentration camps and so on. He can decide what the police is gonna look at and what they're gonna kind of look away from when it happens. And again, in the city with the world's largest Jewish population, that's a significant thing. I have to say, even in Nazi Germany, Jews were like, they didn't think in many cases, they didn't think it's going to be anywhere near as bad as it ended up being. So they stayed. That's, to me, I wouldn't understand. I mean, it's not easy to just, get up and move, but I don't understand Jews who stay in New York right now. It looks like it's a serious risk.
Well, it's the same problem as the Jews here in Britain who decided to vote for Labour despite what Labour did. I mean, the Labour Party, the lefty party here in Britain, was incredibly anti-Semitic during the leadership of Jeremy Corbyn. But the number two of Jeremy Corbyn was the current leader of the Labour Party, the current Prime Minister of Britain. He didn't do anything to stop the anti-Semitism in the party. And despite this, the Jews in Britain, still voted for him. This is this kind of hope for the future that people seem to have, and this continues ignoring what the enemies are telling them. It's the same thing with Iran. Death to America, death to the Jews, death to the West. They're not using slogans because they make them sound cool. They're doing this, they're saying this because that's what they want to do, and they do it. And Mamdani talking about the poor Palestinians singled out. Well, hang on a second. Last time I checked, who are the people who are hunted in the streets of Europe, in Amsterdam, in France, here in Britain? Which people are being killed during a celebration on the beach in Australia? It's not the Palestinians. The Palestinians actually are the people who are causing this kind of problems, who are the people who are spreading the hate in the guise of being the people who are suffering. Well, they're not. They're the people that are causing the suffering. And because behind the ideology is Islamism, is this idea that Islam should reign over the whole world, really. We're talking about creating a caliphate. And I fear for America because this is just the first step, which will embolden hundreds and hundreds of politicians, of Islamic politicians, who are currently sleeping in the United States. They will be emboldened to take up this kind of policies to spread them. I mean, we've seen it happens here in Britain. When they start understanding that the demographic is big enough to guarantee them power, they will come out suddenly from the woodwork. Iran even admitted that they have sleeper cells in the United States ready to stand up and cause all sort of terrorism across the United States. Might be just a bluster from the mullahs, but I'm pretty sure that among all the thousands of immigrants that pretend to love the West are lots of people who actually are just pretending, like this guy doing, pretending to be open to differences, diversity, all this kind of stuff. They will exploit the diversity and differences for their own advantage in order to, you know, they will take the Constitution and use the protection of the individual to create some sort of, Sharia law areas or things like that. And at that point, it's going to be too late in order to try and fight them because they will use our freedoms, our liberties against us.
I think that part of the speech you just heard from Mamdani shows a very carefully constructed speech, quite honestly. And it shows how, when he's listing all the different forms of temples, Shul is hidden in the middle, glossed over quickly, so that there's no embarrassment of a boo from the crowd at the moment it's mentioned. You don't want the Jews, booed in public like that. You want that done later on, in private and in an escalatory basis, or at least, that's what many of his supporters would want. But of course, it's the Palestinians that is the big finish, isn't it? The big finish of that list is to end and dwell on Palestinians. And that's precisely what he does there. And of course, he makes, while some of the other points he's making are very specific about the type of properties people live in, or various minor elements about the past, this is a very overtly political point he's making about Palestinians, about this universalism that makes them the exception. When, as we know, when we're talking about self-defense, there is no exception in our attitude to Palestinians as opposed to any other group when it comes to the key argument of initiating force against others is wrong. And there's no exception there for Palestinians. But of course, that's glossed over in terms of how it's presented from his point of view. I think one of the you did say at the beginning that Sadiq Khan is not as bad as Mamdani, and maybe not, but also the two roles are actually quite different. And although they're the two mayors of two global cities and arguably two of the best cities on the planet, I think they do have different elements of power. They do have different elements of control. And the position of London mayor is in many ways, thankfully, quite restricted. Of course, that power is still there within government, not within the individual. It's just within the national government. But one of the areas where they do overlap is in policing. And I think your point earlier about the rioting and all that kind of stuff. I think one of the things that's interesting to look at in terms of Mamdani is who he's picked as his police commissioner. Now he's picked this Jessica Tisch, and she seems to be further away from him than many of his other picks. She seems to be more conservative in terms of crime than.
Is it she? Are they not non-binary? Anyway, continue.
Quite possibly. If I've misgendered them, then tough, because I knew no different. But anyway, yeah, she does, and she's spoken out about the problems of some of the recent reforms, which have led to similar things within New York as we've got in London, which is a problem with rampant crime, which is a problem of people unable to wear, luxury watches even in luxury parts of London for fear of having them ripped off their own arms, or being assaulted on the tube, or on the underground, on the subway. By different groups at different times in different places, having some areas of London which are unable to be accessed by Jews, for example. Look at the recent events in Whitechapel, where we saw thousands of balaclavaed Muslim men walking, dominating the streets, literally covering every element of the main street, the pavements either side, saying this area is ours. And that is the future of New York in this ghettoized way that he's describing the different areas. Each is going to end up with its own form of that kind of militia if you're not careful. I think, but anyway, this particular pick of Jessica Tisch may be a balance, a little bit of a balance, but of course we're going to have to see if they get on. She might end up getting fired by it, might she? But what she's been talking about is the problems of some of the recent reforms in New York, which have stopped, which have reduced bail, for example, and made people who are released pre-trial more easily. So there's no consequence if you're convicted of a crime. You're straight out on the streets ahead of your trial, and people know that. That they've lowered the age for things like juvenile crime, the age at which you're treated as a juvenile, for being 16 and 17, which basically lets 16 and 17 years olds more off the hook, regardless of their crime, even if it's a gun crime. And those kind of things, and also the threshold that DAs have to do when they for dismissing a case for technical non-compliance becomes easier. So basically, people are let out on technicalities more easily as a result of the recent reforms. Now, all of that means that crime goes unpunished and criminals are back on the streets sooner. That's precisely what we've had in London. That's precisely what cycles a society that is more criminal, and where the criminal gets away with it and the victim doesn't get justice.
Thank you. Nothing but good stuff for the super chat. Great name. Not exactly correct considering the topic we're talking about. Nothing but good stuff says 100% open season on the Jews. Mamdani identifies as Muslim first. Lies and plagiarism is Islamic scripture. Daniel Kraus has another clip for us from the speech. Let's take a look.
Some will be voters from Hillside Avenue or Fordham Road who supported President Trump a year before they voted for me, tired of being failed by their party's establishment. The majority will not use the language that we often expect from those who wield influence. I welcome the change. For too long, those fluent in the good grammar of civility have deployed decorum to mask agendas of cruelty. Many of these people have been betrayed by the established order. But in our administration, their needs will be met. Their hopes and dreams and interests will be reflected transparently in government. They will shape our future. And if for too long these communities have existed as distinct from one another, we will draw this city closer together. We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism.
Right. That part we already heard. But yeah, again, how he's gonna bring these communities together is always in question there, and the answer, unfortunately, is one we probably can guess. Daniel.
Yeah, he's going to bring them together with solidarity, Razi. It's all solidarity all the time. It's one opinion and one opinion only. That's how they come together. If you don't like the opinion, you get off the train. In that sense, he is Trumpian, at least a bit. And Trump's opinion is himself and serving himself. We will see exactly how Mamdani handles that. But there are a few other notes from the speech. These absolute total rejections of this sort of even middle of the road progressivism that we see in a lot of major cities. A couple of quotes that I pulled, beginning today, we'll govern expansively and audaciously. To those who insist that the era of big government is over, hear me when I say this. No longer will City Hall hesitate to use its power to improve New Yorkers' lives. We may not always succeed, but never will we be accused of lacking the courage to try. Oh boy, the courage to try, to govern expansively and audaciously. Um, in this sense, I do see why some Trump voters would be attracted to someone like Mamdani if essentially what they want is for the government to govern expansively and audaciously and not lack the courage to try. Again, no talk of principle there, and what integrates a good use of government, or sorry, what distinguishes a good use of government from a bad use of government, what distinguishes proper power in this sense from improper power in this sense. It's just that they will use their power and not hesitate to use their power to improve New Yorkers' lives. That should frighten any New Yorker who hears those words. But apparently it comes with thunderous applause instead.
Yeah, I mean, Marco, it brings me back to that meeting that Trump and Mamdani had, and we talked about this on the channel, and it was so friendly a meeting that you see from Trump when he meets, somebody like Zelensky, and in the first meeting, it was absolutely horrific. It wasn't that much better in the last meeting. Uh, he's done that to kind of friendly countries a few times. When he meets dictators, he, goes off on journalists who ask the dictators tough questions. And yeah, that's probably what he likes about Mamdani is that this guy does seem like he is going to be the kind of the Saudi government is big government people, there's no problem that they don't have a solution for, even if they don't manage to solve it, they certainly would try. As is Kim Jong-un, who in Trump's previous term in office, he said positive things about him. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah.
Well, these people are statists. They love a big, powerful state to rule over people. Again, it goes back to the fact that they don't see humans as people who should be allowed to thrive, should be allowed to keep the product of their effort and to be free. They think that humans are just there to be ruled. And they are the ones who implement the system in order to keep humans in check. And that's exactly why these people are dangerous, because they don't care whether the constitution puts limits to the state and the government over people's life. They don't care about this kind of stuff. They totally ignore it. It's not in their thinking. These any allowance for freedom is not there. In their mind, freedom and rights are given by the state. And that's why they push religion so much, because they need to have some sort of morality to justify their actions. If I can use my religion in order to tell you how to live, well, I can always say, well, it's God that tells me to make you act like this. And this is the big problem. Throughout history, morality is always either dictated by a strong government, a despotic government, or it's a mystical thing pronounced by a god or written in a book or whatever. And for the first time, Ayn Rand actually shows you that morality, what human beings should do in order to live happily and successfully, is dictated by actually the facts of life, facts of reality. It's not made up by whim. It's not made up by some kind of mystical dictate. So just read the objectivist ethics. She will shows you. She shows you in like in the space of 30, 40 paragraph, you actually will see why morality can be achieved by human being. You can be a perfect moral being without the need of a god or of a dictator to tell you what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And what have you got here? You've got him saying you could rewrite what he says, essentially. You could rewrite, he says that government is always good. Yeah, you could rewrite what he says as the government, a courageous government is a government prepared to use power, power to crush some of the people, and power to do it on a trial and error basis. And if it works, great. And where it doesn't, well, we were courageous in our crushing. And that's essentially what the message he's selling. But of course, it is dressed in all kinds of language designed to con and trick you. And of course, all of the warm things that you're supposed to feel about a group really come from your own identity. And he's tried to transpose them across to a group. But of course, within a group, your identity is no longer there. If you were to cease to exist, the group would still continue with all its same aggregates of attributes that it had before, but you would not. So the only way that you are recognized as an individual is when your own attributes are recognized, when you are allowed to do and live your own life properly, not when you're subsumed by some group and disappeared into it. And that's what all these collectivists are trying to sell as the message they're trying to flog on every occasion.
Yeah, Richard, the way you framed that made it even more frightening than I initially thought it was. We may not always succeed, but we're not going to be accused of not trying. Reality doesn't grade on your effort. I guarantee that cause and effect will not be impressed by Mayor Mondami's bravery. What when you try and fail, especially with the power of government, which is the power of coercion, it's the power of holding a gun to your head to make you do something, then real people, real individual humans suffer from your failure and your quote unquote trying and bravery. And there's actually nothing at all morally righteous about that. It should be repugnant to anyone listening to that and wanting to live a good life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought Richard was like trying to subliminally promote the show, the Apple TV show Pluribus, but we're going to talk about that here at ARC UK later on. I do want to show some good news in a sense. This is AOC already criticizing Mamdani. Let's watch this clip.
This is the United States of America. In this country, we hate Nazis. Kind of like a foundational defining thing. Two of probably the most foundational defining things about American history is that we beat the Confederates and we beat the Nazis. And I don't know what side people may be on today, but I still am not rocking with anyone sympathetic to Nazis. And I
Okay,
will
all
do
right, we got it. Yeah, of course, she was talking there about Elon doing the same gesture, and Mamdani did it yesterday. Yeah, I'm sure he would not say that what he did there was a Nazi salute. The thing is, if you look at his views, that salute would not be off-brand. Am I taking this too far, Daniel?
Is this her attempt at trying to be consistent in some weird way?
No, this is a
Is-
clip of her talking about Elon.
oh, this is her. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Thank you
somebody
for
somebody
correcting
combined
me.
the two. Yeah.
I was so confused by that. Yeah, of course there is this hypocrisy and what's bad for you is fine for me sort of thing. Um, I I don't think you're taking it too far. I mean, I obviously don't think that's what he was doing, but I do think that, as you noted, it wouldn't be totally inappropriate based on some of his views. I won't say he's that far yet. Um, no, I always enjoy hearing her out of this sort of weird. It reminds me why I should never put any faith in politicians ever type of thing. It's a good reminder sometimes. But sometimes, as she said, you got to be morally right and not factually right. So I wonder which she is in this case. Probably neither.
Thank you, Daniel, for the super chat. Daniel says, let me explain to non-Americans, rugged individualism equals pair of jeans, cowboy hat, and a can of Pilsner. Warm collectivism equals a Snuggie and cup of tea. Yeah, or rugged individualism is what built New York into what it is now, and the warmth of collectivism is the gulags and concentration camps Marco.
Yeah, I can't recall any war that was started by an individualist. However, collectivists have started quite a few wars. Just as the Ukrainians at the beginning of immediately after the revolution, the Soviet Revolution, they, you know, millions of them died of starvation. But we don't talk about the inconvenient truths, do we? Yeah, I mean, AOC, she personally, I think she was already too ambitious trying to become a waitress, and she found herself being a member of Congress. Good for her, but bad for civilization, bad for democracy. I mean, what more can you say? She just tries hard. She does her best. Morality is as rubbery as her brain, so what the hell? A is A.
Um, I don't know what to say about this. I'm glad for the explanation of it because it did confuse the bejesus out of me as well, to be honest, when I first saw this clip. But yeah, um, I always loathe this association of gestures and symbols and making those the most important things in order to make some dumb point which just displays your prejudice and doesn't talk about any of the arguments but just shows it's like when there was a recent one in the UK where they took a new badge of the Reform Party and claimed it represented a Nazi symbol because it was circular like the Nazi badge was or something. Utterly stupid, and it just makes the person who does it the first time look stupid, and anybody who apes it subsequently look equally stupid. And of course, it diminishes among that the true Nazis from being identified. It's the age-old argument: if you're calling everybody a Nazi, then suddenly nobody's a Nazi, including the Nazi, the actual Nazi. So yeah, I mean, symbolism is often overplayed. I mean, there's a reason that no politicians ever had the same moustache as Hitler did, because sometimes symbolism is impossible to avoid. But that's possibly the one exception, I think, and to accuse this, either Mamdani in this salute or Elon on that stage, and the amount of hay that was made out of Elon's, gesture to the crowd then, which was absolutely nothing to do with supporting fascism. And yet those that wanted to jump on that bandwagon and just shout and yell were very keen to do so. Uh, it, well, if social media serves a purpose, it serves the purpose of mocking this bollocks.
Well, there was a comment in the chat that I think is a good way to close this show to discuss it. And the guy said, or not guy, gal, ZMT, it's hard to know, and the picture is too small on the phone, says, no, it is a woman. The fact that Mamdani 1 is already a political disaster for the entire country, more leftist loonies incoming. Yes. First of all, yes, this does embolden like the worst elements of the left. And another scary part of it is that the right is too much of the right is just anti-leftist. It's not people with an ideology. It's people whose ideology of the moment is determined by what the left hates or what the left accuses them of, and often they try to be that, and often it is the other side of the same coin. And yeah, I wonder who is gonna counter that and with what, Daniel?
Yeah, I hate to see it. I don't want to see what the rightist response to this will be, the sort of anti-Mandami, because it won't be sort of a principled, sort of right of center, old school conservative. It's going to be in this new line of, well, you want a bully, so we'll just be the bully for your side instead. That has sort of been the Trumpian effect on the right, sadly. Not to get too into politics, but I also wonder if there's going to be a longer term disaster for the left if folks like Mondami get elected and then are miserable failures, as they're bound to be, governing their cities. We saw what happened with lockdown policies and people fleeing blue states for red states because they were relatively freer. And that is going to have a devastating effect for the left in political elections, presidential elections coming up. The electoral map for the left is getting harder and harder and harder to actually win an electoral college victory. And so if the left keeps electing folks like Mamdani and other folks in major cities or governors, radical governors, then they're going to see more people flee, and the consequences for them politically are going to be disastrous in the long term.
But wait, so California, people left, and yeah, Trump did better in 2024 than he did in 2020, but it's still very much a state that the Democrats know for the foreseeable future they're going to win. And I can't imagine in New York, in a mayoral race 4 years from now, somebody who's not a Democrat or sort of a Democrat turned independent winning.
Well, I don't mean that exactly. What I mean is, yes, they will continue to win California, but California will have fewer electoral votes. And the Republicans will continue to win Texas, but Texas will have more electoral votes, and Florida will have more electoral votes. And if it's a simple, you cross a majority of electoral votes and you're named president, then it becomes harder and harder for the left to win if all their states keep declining every 4 years.
Yep, that makes sense. Marco.
Yeah, it's not only that, isn't it? Because to run a city like New York City, you need money, and the money only comes from the people who produce it. And if you spook them out, if you force them to leave, well, who are you gonna steal the money from to spend on the people who eat this or pray for that or whatever? I mean, you cannot do what California is doing now, imposing a wealth tax. So people like Peter Thiel is leaving in order to avoid having to give his money to somebody who wants to take it. So Mandami will find the same problem, that you cannot run a socialist state and hope to get the money from the people who expect free money. You cannot shell out other people's money if there's no people there with money in the first place, because you force them out, because you make it impossible for them to produce the kind of wealth that you want to expropriate and give to somebody else who doesn't deserve it. So ultimately, it's going to be a difficult task for him, because, of course, promising so many things. Well, first of all, you have to have the stuff you want to give away, and second, giving away stuff in the end, it doesn't increase the self-esteem of the people who get the stuff for free, because they got it for free. They didn't have to put any effort into it, and that's part of running the welfare state, isn't it? But then again, on the other side, we see the Republicans, people like the vice president, who's kind of sold to the idea of Medicare and Medicaid. These are statists again. It doesn't matter on the left or on the right, who believe that the welfare state is the way to go, and that's absolutely a diabolical turnout for the books, really.
And already in some of the talk for New York, in terms of redistribution, you're hearing a focus not just on money, but also on the color of people's skin, and therefore on which areas of New York need more money because of the color of skin in one area compared with another. Those racist policies which end up defining the economic means in which a city is run. And I think we've seen plenty of that in London, frankly. I've already seen some of the description of how the property taxes in New York is likely to change in order to punish the richer whites in the Brooklyn brownstones, for example. And of course, and luxury properties, always associating white with wealth. Even though the whole point of America and the point of New York as the epitome of America is the fact that anyone, regardless of their color, can make their own fortune, and the color of their skin is frankly irrelevant, which of course is as it should be. I think the contrast with London is apparent here. I mean, I know that the mayor is also runs the transportation network in New York City, and of course here in the UK, don't know exactly what the parallel is, but here in the UK, in London, our train drivers are now paid the equivalent of $100,000 a year to be a subway driver, to simply push a lever forward and stop. Many on automatic trains, you're just sitting there for the for window dressing, frankly, and to press a button to open the doors. And that is at the expense of every commuter and every person in London. And of course, at the same time as being paid a large amount of money off the back of the taxpayer in London, they're also being especially badged as still working class, so they can get all the benefits which are accrued to those at the bottom end of the spectrum who are dubbed working class, whilst at the same time earning the kind of salary that a professional ought to earn if he wasn't having to pay so much tax to subsidize the likes of these parasitic train drivers. So whether that's your future or your present New York City, it's certainly London's current situation, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
What do you mean, Richard? I heard the buses will be free.
But yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah, and they're run on love.
Yeah, by the way, buses need drivers, but yeah, as you point out, trains don't need drivers, and yet, yeah, the train drivers get paid a lot of money here because they have a union, and um, yeah, the race point reminds me of when I was filling the census a few years ago, and there was a question about race, or I think they called it ethnicity, probably. I don't remember what exactly, but there's and it was a mandatory question. Like you can't not answer it, and there's a question mark there if you want more information on why we need this, why we need to know this, and it says so we can more equally distribute resources, and which only made it worse, by the way. I think pretty obviously there was an option of clicking other, which I did, and then filled in I refuse to answer, and nobody has arrested me for this since. But yeah, generally when you fill a form and there's a race question, the only legitimate answer is I refuse to answer. Um, all right. We will keep answering all the tough questions on this channel until the government comes and arrests us all for doing so. Maybe not you, Daniel, just yet. You are in a country that has a First Amendment. The rest of us, not so much, but who knows what's coming in the future. But as long as we can, we'll keep doing this. Thanks, guys, for. Oh, Daniel, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Daniel T. Richards.
Marco Richard, where can people find you?
Check out the Briefly Objective, the sister channel to this. The link's in the description below. Lots of short form material based on many of the conversations on this channel.
I'm Rozzy Ginsburg on X. All of us want to be the kind of working class that train drivers are, so consider becoming a member of the Ayn Rand Center UK. We will never tax you as the government does. We will just ask you to consider doing that. You will get access to additional content and many perks. We will be back here tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody, for watching. The Daily Objective returns tomorrow, the reality show on Monday.